Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's broadcast of the Marin Symphony Orchestra. I hope it's been a pleasant and productive week for you. We have some more wonderful music in store for you today as we welcome my guest for this broadcast, the principal cello of the Marin Symphony for 3 years now, since 2017, Madeleine Tucker. Maddie is with me and she joins me from her apartment here. Welcome, Maddie.
Thank you, Alasdair. It's really nice to see you after way too long.
Way too long, I know. Well, I'll start with asking the same question that I pretty much ask everybody, and that, how are you doing in the midst of all this?
There have definitely been some ups and downs. I'm very lucky that I've been able to maintain a fairly normal work schedule in my non-cello life. In fact, it's been busier than it ever has been. I think that the fact that everyone is working remotely and everyone is working from their homes has actually abstracted some of the time zone differences from people that I work with in Singapore and in Dublin. So it feels like we have all become closer together because of this. I think outside of work, I've been trying to run more frequently. I live near Golden Gate Park. That's been a nice oasis, outdoor oasis, when it's not too crowded, but it usually is fairly crowded because everyone has the same idea I do. I've been trying to cook more, I'm trying to play with my hamster more, and of course trying to keep my cello fingers nimble by practicing some lovely Popper etudes and Bach cello suites. But it is sometimes difficult to find the motivation to keep practicing when there are not concerts on the horizon, but still trying to be disciplined and do my best.
We'll get back to the hamster a little later, but I want to pick up another telltale phrase you used earlier. You said in my other work life, and this is something that I think is really fascinating for our audience to get an idea about, is that the Marin Symphony, while part of your life, represents only a certain part of what you do. You have another very interesting job when you're not on stage with the Marin Symphony. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, of course. I am a risk program manager at a company called Stripe. Stripe is a technology company that builds economic infrastructure for the internet. So economic infrastructure in this context is building a payment system that allows your business to accept payments from all around the world in all different currencies, in all different payment methods, and other infrastructure such as issuing corporate cards to your employees. I've been there for a little over 3 years, and I've always been on the risk team, and I'm still really happy, still growing a lot, still love the people that I work with.
So how did you come to be able to have these two wonderfully disparate modes of employment, shall we say? Because there's not that Venn diagram. There's not a whole lot of overlap between the two. Your background must obviously have been in music before that. Tell us a little bit about how you got to come out here in the first place.
Ever since I can remember, I've been trying to strike a balance between the music side and the academic side. In high school, I went to a very academically rigorous program, but they also had a phenomenal music program and some really wonderful musicians that I'm lucky enough to have had as mentors. When applying to college, I knew I wanted to do a dual degree program of sorts. I wanted to continue pursuing academic interests, but also wanted to continue on the trajectory to become a professional musician. So I was lucky enough to participate in the Columbia-Juilliard joint program, where I did a bachelor's degree in applied mathematics from Columbia and a master's degree at Juilliard. After graduating, I thought that I would have some idea of what I wanted to do, but it turns out I still didn't. I didn't want to give up either side of me, so I decided I would keep trying to pursue both in the greatest capacity possible for as long as possible. So shortly after graduating, I moved to San Francisco to work at Stripe, and the Marin Symphony was holding a cello audition for the opening principal cello about 3 months after I moved here. So I really lucked out on the timing and feel so grateful that I have been able to be a part of the Marin Symphony community ever since.
Well, we're so grateful that you took advantage of that opportunity. I think you remember saying at the time, you said something very sweet to me. You said, well, I just wanted to find a group to play with. And we are so lucky that we are the group that you found. Yeah, it's extraordinary. I know that program, the joint program at Columbia and Juilliard, and a number of wonderful people have gone through that. including yourself. Tell us about your cello. There's an interesting story behind the instrument that you play, isn't there?
There is. I play on a cello that was built in 1991, made by Joe Grubaugh and Sigrun Seifert, who are based up in Petaluma, right north of San Francisco. I have a friend who also has a Grubaugh and Seifert cello, and in 2012, the woman who was selling this cello, Ann Pinsker, who is now a dear friend of mine, decided to sell her cello. She has an original Guadagnini, and in the early 1990s, commissioned this exact replica of her cello. So it's the same exact small string length. Even the wear and tear on the cellos is exactly the same. If you look at the two together, you wouldn't be able to tell which is which. The artistry is so magnificent.
And Guadagnini, for those that may not be quite so much in the cello world, is in the same, spoken in the same terms of Stradivarius or Guarneri, right? I mean, it's one of the great giants of the string making world.
Yes, and one of the characteristics of Guadagnini cellos is that they tend to be petite, and I'm also a petite person, so it's a perfect cello for me. But anyway, Anne and I never met. Anne is the woman who owns the cello before I did. We emailed back and forth for about 5 years. We tried to meet up when she was in New York City or I was in California, but we never crossed paths. The first weekend after I moved to San Francisco, we met, and she has been my sort of California mom ever since. And I actually lived with her and her husband for about 8 months last year. I had no idea when I bought the cello that I would end up coming back to California and the cello would end up making its way into the very home from the person from who I bought the cello. But it has come home, and it's very happy to be back in California.
That's just it's just a lovely story, and it shows you that 6 degrees of separation doesn't begin to take account of what it's really like for us. And of course, I know Anne Pinsker as well, because she's in the San Francisco Symphony, and I was with the San Francisco Symphony for so many years back when I first moved out to California as well. So there's yet another thread of to be explored there. How are you keeping your time occupied musically these days? I mean, you've got a lot on your plate with work in your day job, but are you finding yourself motivated? You were talking about Pauper Etudes or the other musical projects that you have underway.
I don't think I have a good answer to that, unfortunately. The extent of my cello playing has been Pauper Etudes and Bach and Bollywood.
Right, which will bring us to the next part of this broadcast. But mind you, Pauper Etudes and Bach, that actually covers quite a good amount of food groups. You can get an awful lot done between those two. Before we move on to the musical selection that you played for us, I have to ask about the hamster. How long have you had it, and what games do hamsters enjoy playing? That's a question I'd never thought I'd ever ask in an interview, but it's out there. What sort of games does your hamster enjoy playing?
I got my hamster about a year ago now, and I wanted to try to train him. Similarly to dogs or cats or even people, I've been using a clicker, which is a little device that you click after the animal does the thing that you want it to do. So we started out by going through toilet paper tubes. When the hamster went through the toilet paper tube, I clicked the button and gave him a treat. We eventually graduated to multiple toilet paper tubes, to obstacle courses made up of toilet paper tubes, ramps, and now we're doing weave poles. If you've ever seen a dog agility competition or video, weave poles are a course in which a dog weaves through a straight line of poles. And my hamster can now do that. So we're getting better. We still have a lot to learn.
That is impressive. That is impressive. Maybe we can have another video of you showing that side of your talents as hamster trainer, in addition to all of the other things that you do. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for the conversation today. You have very kindly prepared a wonderful musical treat for us, which you have separately introduced. So I don't think either of us necessarily needs to say anything more about it, because you will introduce it yourself. And it's a wonderful treat, and I think we'll just leave it at that. But for now, just to thank you so much for for the conversation today, for the wonderful contributions you've made to the orchestra since you've been in the orchestra, which is now 3 years, I guess. Time has flown quickly, but I just want to thank you so much for everything that you do for us.
Well, thank you for having me today. It was really nice to talk to you.
Take care, and I hope to see you soon.